Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com, reporting on another spectacular big lie from the mainstream media. 3 days ago, Time magazine reported that the Swedish COVID-19 response is a disaster. Sweden never locked down, they never mandated masks, they never closed their under 16 schools, they didn't close their borders, and they didn't close their restaurants and bars. They did everything they could to avoid violating human rights. Time magazine thinks that's bad, and they say the Swedish COVID-19 response is a disaster. It shouldn't be a model for the rest of the world. They say that Sweden failed to reduce their mortality rates as the pandemic progressed, and they reference dates of May 10th and June 7th. Now let's look at today's data from Oxford University. Sweden has one of the lowest daily death rates in the world, and it's going down even as death rates are increasing across most of the rest of Europe. It's already pretty clear that the Time magazine article is completely fraudulent, but let's look at a little more data. This is the graph of confirmed daily COVID-19 deaths in Sweden. The Time magazine article says that they failed to reduce their death rate since May 7th and June 10th. The Time magazine claim is utter nonsense. COVID-19 deaths in Sweden have plummeted since May 7th and June 10th. Now let's look at the death rate in a little more detail and over a longer period of time. This graph shows monthly deaths per million from all causes in Sweden since the year 1980. Last month, the deaths per million in Sweden from all causes was at a 40-year low. And the death rate at the peak of the pandemic was lower than many months that have occurred in the past. The dashed line is the 3-year mean, and you can see it's also very close to a record low. The low death rate last month and all the other data shows once again that Time magazine is simply not telling the truth. COVID modelers predicted that Sweden would have a huge death count because they didn't lock down. Let's look at how Sweden did versus the models. The black line in this graph shows daily COVID-19 deaths in Sweden, and the red dashed line shows what the models projected since they didn't lock down. The actual death rate at the projected peak was more than 10 times lower than what the models predicted. Sweden proved unequivocally that the models don't work and that COVID alarmism is not based on science. And the total COVID-19 deaths per million in Sweden since the start of the pandemic is lower than New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, San Marino, Louisiana, Rhode Island, Mississippi, Peru, the District of Columbia, Belgium, Arizona, Andorra, Illinois, Florida, Michigan, Spain, Bolivia, Brazil, Georgia, Chile, South Carolina, Ecuador, Delaware, the USA as a whole, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Mexico, the United Kingdom, Italy, Texas, and Panama. Deaths per million in New Jersey and New York were 3 times higher than in Sweden. New York and New Jersey had the highest death rates in the world. And Dr. Fauci held up New York as a model for fighting coronavirus. He says New York did it correctly. So according to Dr. Fauci in the press, New Jersey and New York did everything right, and Sweden did everything wrong. So you might ask, why is Time magazine lying about this? And the answer is right here in the upper right corner. They're trying to influence the election. If people understood that lockdowns and masks were not necessary, then lots of people would be voting for Donald Trump. But they want people to believe that they're in danger and that Joe Biden's going to come rescue them. Sweden proved that countries which engaged in lockdowns, masks, and tyranny did nothing but destroy their economy and destroy the morale of their people. Unfortunately, destroying the country appears to be the goal of whoever is financing this propaganda in Time magazine. Before I wrap this up, let's take a look at what life actually looks like in Sweden now.
Hello everybody, my name is Svetlana. Today is October 12, 2020. Now it's about 5 o'clock, Monday, and we're going to see how does Sweden go with all the coronavirus situation, the public transport, the masks, and the social distance. So as you can see, there are plenty of people, and we're gonna see how does it look outside as well, or inside.
Time magazine doesn't want people to know that they don't have to live in tyranny. That's a pretty disturbing thought, and unfortunately support of tyranny is pandemic among the press and the Democratic Party. Toto has no interest in human insanity, and he lives his life free. You can visit him and Kyrie on the web at realclimatescience.com.